Okay, everybody. Hello. We're ready to get rolling for the second last session of the day. Ken Coles, Farming Smarter. And my partner in crime today is Carlo. He's our main spray guy. Today, we're going to talk about how to clean out sprayers safely. And we've learned a lot actually over the years. When you run a research farm, you spray every chemical you can think of, and you switch between crops hourly, minute sometimes. And we've made more mistakes than even Brian Buckman in his spraying career. So we try to learn. Everybody jokes about Farming Smart. We try to learn from our mistakes. And we've learned actually a lot from Mark Ooslander. He gave a talk at our last session about sprayer cleanout. And I always learn something new from Mark. But today's session, what we're going to talk about is we've got this fancy new, I'm not even sure how to pronounce, the Amazon sprayer. And it's a pretty cool sprayer. So Carlos going to go through what he's learned in operating the sprayer. We're going to do some demonstrations and actually show the biobed in operation. So this is a cement pad here. I'll go through how the biobed works, a little bit on how to build it, some of the issues we've had with it. So that's the nice thing about Farming Smarter here is that we try to learn through experience and then share our experiences. So yes, there's been some hiccups in the biobeds, but we learn from them. And hopefully in the end, it will make it an easier job for you guys when you're ready to install one on your farm. So I'll let Carlo take it away.
Here you go. Hello, everyone. So I guess Ken wanted to start with saying about the safety spraying. So that's why I'm wearing my boots, spray suit, gloves. And I realize I probably can't wear my mask with that being muffled in the microphone, so I'll just put that to the side for now. But now to go back to the sprayer, basically whenever I'm done spraying a field, I'll have a little bit left in the sprayer. Usually we're pretty exact with exactly how much we calculate for how much chemical we need. But the nice thing with this sprayer is the biggest thing is first releasing the little bit that's left in your main tank on the bottom. Oh, did I carry that too?
Sure.
There we go. So this sprayer is equipped with basically a release, so whatever is left in the bottom. Oh, forgot to take the cap off. This is just water, just so you know. So gravity feed, everything gets released out of the tank. I can park it right over top of the biobed like that. It'll all run down. I got about, it should be empty pretty quick here. So basically then after I'd have that completely empty, I'd unfold the booms, which I will do in 1 minute as soon as that's all empty. So I'll go start the tractor in the meantime.
Normally he might be backed up a little bit more so it's not splashing out into the yard. But, you know, usually, do you guys clean your sprayers out usually in the same area, or do you have different sites where you do it? The best way is obviously over top of the crop, but do you get every last bit out? Usually not, right? There's usually... Say again?
I'll rinse it 3 times.
So then you have he said he likes to rinse 3 times before he leaves the field, and you know what you're doing. And that's awesome. So do you have a water tank on your sprayer?
150-gallon rinse tank.
Okay. So that's the best opportunity or best option is to have an actual rinse tank on your sprayer. I know more and more sprayers are having that option, but there's still a lot that don't. This sprayer does have a fresh water tank. You can go ahead, Carlo. So just got this sprayer this year, and for us, because we have so many plots, we have 4 replicate trials. We bought this sprayer so that it would go over 2 reps all at once. So then we can go in our pathways. You see the spots where we mow in between? And then it works quite nicely. Then we also have the clearance if we need to do desiccation and all that. So it's actually really improved the efficiency of the research farm maintenance spraying. And I have to be careful not to get hit in the head here. Yeah. So if you don't have one of these water tanks in your sprayer, then you got to go back to where you have your water source. And then a lot of times, even that little bit of rinsate that's left over there, it tends to get dropped on the ground or sprayed out through the booms. And 70% of surface water contamination This is a study that's been done. 70% of surface water contaminations comes from loading and unloading sprayers. So basically that means that there's an accumulation of chemicals in the same spot. So if you're always cleaning in the same spot and then you get what we have, 3-4 inches of rain, it tends to percolate and wash everything out and then out and damaging something else. So a lot of times this is your farmyard where you live and your kids are playing, and a lot of times that, you know, puts yourself at risk of contaminating groundwater, contaminating your ponds, whatever it may be. So not only is, you know, taking this approach seriously important for your own family's health, but there's obviously this whole public perception thing that's really growing. So in Europe, the rules are so much more strict. They actually mandate by law these pesticide rinsate biobeds. Did you want to carry on?
Yeah, I figured maybe just keep talking. I'm on a track that's a little loud, especially if I turn on the PTO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he demonstrated that if he's not spraying in the field, and in some cases we can't because you see all the different plots in the way, we're going to risk damaging things. The reason we dropped the rinsate is because when you add water to wash now, you're not really diluting it, you're getting rid of it, so now you're actually rinsing it. So if you had a bigger sprayer, you could just hook a hose up and then run it to the pad, because everything that runs down this pad is collected into a sump, and you'll see that in a minute. So the next stage is then you do is to show about the wash bowl. So this sprayer has a fancy wash bowl for using jugs, and it's actually really nice too, because as I mentioned before, a lot of the risk is when you're mixing, so you've got concentrated stuff. This fancy little wash bowl, and you guys are welcome to walk up and take a look. You can spray or pour your chemical in there, and it actually has a spot to rinse your jug out right then and there. So in the past, I know I've spent inordinate amounts of times triple rinsing chemical jugs after the fact. This is done right then and there. So, you know, I think you can get these add-ons on sprayers as well. You can also hook directly up with the chem shuttles as well, and then it's harder to triple rinse those, isn't it? You just return them like that, right? Yeah. Yeah, and then there's a wand all the way around there that rinses the whole bowl. It's pretty cool. And that's what you push the jug down on, that rinses out the jug. The other thing about this sprayer is it has recirculating booms. Any of you guys have that on your sprayers now? That's sort of a new tech that's being touted these days. And ironically, one of my board directors said, hey, somebody wants to sell me these recirculating booms, tells me it's going to really, really speed up how I clean out. Do you think that's true? Don't have to take the end cap off and flush the booms. That's right, so it's going to be recirculating, cleaning that boom, but it's going to dump it back in the tank. So I failed to understand the sales piece of how that's going to speed up cleaning. I think it's going to make it better, but I don't see it speeding things up all that necessarily. If you had a fresh water tank on your sprayer, then you can do a fresh water rinse with each boom. In that sense, I think you're going to do a better job, but I still don't think speeding it up. If anything, yeah, Carlos says it makes it a little bit more complicated because there's so many different places that chem is going, right? So what's next?
Well, I think the big thing is this clean water tank. You can pump out of that tank. You can clean out your bowl, you can clean out your agitation lines with it, you can clean out everything, every separate part from your clean water tank.
Yeah. So Carlo is just saying that with the clean water tank, you can rinse individual booms, you can rinse the tank, and it just, that actually might, I'm not sure if it speeds it up, but it makes it a heck of a lot more efficient. I'm personally interested in these new sprayers that have multiple tanks and spray injections too. Again, Lewis talked to you this morning about doing variable rate kochia. So if you had split tanks where you could actually turn on, say, that second chemical only when you needed it, I think that I'd be interested in that, the way things are going these days. And I do know that some of the newer sprayers are equipped with that. There's a couple of them being sold here in southern Alberta. Anything else?
It's got the tank clean out itself, and then when it's all cleaned out, you spray it out of your booms.
Yeah. So once he's happy with the tank being cleaned, he'll do a final rinse on the booms. Yes, each boom is completely recirculating, which is really nice because you have instant on and instant chemical. So you're not going to have that inverted V ever. You'll never have an inverted V ever again. And you never have to charge your boom. So there's, what's that?
Rinsing now, it's continually.
That's right. When we're rinsing, it's continually recirculating. So I think, again, it's not going to speed it up, but it's going to do a better job of cleaning. And then there's no dead ends on any of the booms. But there's a lot more hose you have to be worried about. So I always think if you understand how this sprayer works in and out, that's the best way to know how to clean it. It's just about that understanding. And now he's doing the final rinse on the booms. Are we good? No. Okay, let's shut it off then. So the one thing I did learn from Mark Ooslander that we probably all do wrong is when it comes to the cleaners that we put in the tanks. So Finish is really good at cleaning out the SUs and stuff like that, but you really need a detergent. And I mentioned to you we've made mistakes at Farming Smarter. The one thing I learned is how good of a detergent Merge is. So Merge will pull out chemical that has been sitting there for a long, long time, and then all of a sudden you've got damage like 3 or 4 tank loads after you ever use the product.
Liberty will do the same thing.
Liberty does the same thing. The other thing that's an issue with these recirculating booms is now each boom has a filter in it as well. So we've got loads of filters that we need to clean on this sprayer, not even including all of the screens on the nozzles themselves. The one thing that Mark recommends is that if you're coming to the end of the spray or you're going to switch crops, is you actually really need time. We rush our cleaning because we like to spray, spray, spray. But if you can actually load the booms with the detergent, with the Finish, whatever you need, and then let it sit overnight. And it's amazing what that will pull out. And we've learned that again through experience by damaging plots, which really sucks.
Yeah,
so
on the other hand, you're spraying all those many times. You can't, after every spraying application, you can't let it sit overnight.
no, it's logistically challenging. Absolutely. But if you can incorporate that into your practice when you can, then I think you'll avoid that accumulation over time. Any questions on that? We're just going to move around here. We're going to talk about the biobed itself now.
Did I miss the pipe demo?
No.
Okay. You saw that note to give a shout out to all our smart farm partners and stuff like that too?
I did not.
You have it yet?
If I don't know who they are. No, this is a good spot if you guys can come over here now. Have any of you had a chance to see the biobed before? Sorry for the redundancy, but we do learn, and there are some things that I think that that you'll be able to pick up on. So overall, this system here, we parted it out at Southern Irrigation, not including the pad, was just over $5,000. So it's not as expensive as you might like, but we also want to be able to, first of all, be more responsible with our own rinsate. You know, in all honesty, it just ran out onto the field before, whatever little bits we had. You know, it doesn't seem like much at the time, but at continual use, that really adds up over years. So I'm happy, I feel better that we have this in place. It didn't take long to build. It was probably 2 days worth of work, plus a little bit of extra work in making it pretty. You don't have to be an expert in plumbing, and you can build this. So in fact, we're actually going to do a little bit of a hands-on learning experience for those of you who have never actually glued PVC. So I'm looking for a few volunteers, and we're going to come in over here and actually do that right now. But just to explain, we spray everything on the tank. Then there's a sump here. Sump goes into a holding tank. The holding tank then has a agitator in it, which is basically just a sump pump with a pipe sticking out. So we'll set a timer so that it agitates what's in the holding tank. Then the other timer will fire up the first pump that runs for about an hour a day, runs that pesticide rinsate into the first biobed. And the material in the biobed, there's actually a see-through window right over here beside Claudette on the bed. That's basically what the Biobed mixture is. We've got gravel on the bottom, a layer of fabric or landscaping fabric just to stop the material from flowing in there. And then it's a mixture of compost and straw and soil. And I think it's a 2-to-1 mixture. Really simple. Most of you can get a hold of some manure and some straw. Maybe a tractor might help to mix it up unless you want to do it by hand. After it runs through this first biobed, 90% or more of the pesticides are basically gone. So they're eaten up by the bacteria in that soil. It's a biological process. And there's a sump in there that will pump to the second biobed. The second biobed, that's just for fun. That cleans up the leftovers, basically. Once we're done with that tank, we have it free flowing now out to this yard where we've planted a shelter belt. So instead of a chemical wasteland, we're going to have things growing out there. And one of the ways we watch that this is working, and we forgot to do it this year, is to plant seeds in these 2 biobeds. And you'll see that most of the plants are not alive in the first biobed. The second one, they will all be alive. That proves to me that it's actually working. It's a nice visual indicator. So then we might we might want to refine this by burying a holding tank at this second tank, the second biobed, and then put on another pump yet so that we can water our new shelter belt that we planted there. So that's an add-on that we need to do. The other thing that we learned, and we weren't unaware of it, but rain is a problem with these biobeds. So this isn't that big of a pad. The sprayer's 60 foot wide. I think, what is that, maybe 4 feet long? Amazing amount of water that will come off of this in a 3 to 4 inch rainstorm. So we're going to put a bypass right here with a valve. So after Carlo's done cleaning, he's going to turn that valve so that it's going to be bypassed. That means anytime it rains, it's like, and he probably needs to rinse the pad off before he does that too. Good thing to remember. Then it's going to go back and feed the shelter belt. So if we start losing plants in the shelter belt, we know somebody's not doing their job. So that's the way we're going to do the workaround, because I did get a quote to put a lean-to over this because I thought that would be a lot easier. But to get a 60-foot span on a lean-to was going to cost me $100,000. So no thanks. We're going to do it the easy way. We'll do one little lean-to right over where George is, just to cover those 2 biobeds, because we don't want the rain going on there either, because it's going to make that biobed saturated and not work. Yes, George?
How long will this biobed last?
So nobody really knows in northern Canada here. I guess we're southern Canada. The question is, how long will the biobed last? And I forgot to mention at the beginning of this, Dr. Claudia Sheedy with Ag Canada is the lead scientist behind this biobed project. So she has a program where there's a number of these biobeds across Canada, and the data that she's expecting is in that 7 to 10 years. And she thinks because we're in a northern climate, because of the winters that we have, there's a good chance it might even last longer. So we haven't had biobeds in operation long enough to know. We'll be keeping track of this one too. If it does get to the point where we need to recharge, all we got to do is push that tank out, dump it out and compost the material and put some new material in. So it's not a costly venture unless the plastic deteriorates and you got to get a new tank. So that can happen. So, you know, I'd bank on 10 years. Yeah.
Would the material then be classified as hazardous?
She did mention that the question was, will the material that we dump out be classified as hazardous? I think you'd want to be cautious with it. I don't know if it'd be hazardous waste, but they did say the best way to deal with that is to compost it, which means you're just going to get more biological activity in there to break down the herbicide. So they end up being metabolites of bacterial feeding. Were there any other questions on the biobed? This trailer here beside you is a mock-up of the real life one. And the reason we did that, we actually used all the same parts except for maybe some smaller tanks, if you hadn't noticed, because it's too big to haul this one around. This trailer is available for anyone to borrow. And the reason being is that we read the Ag Canada manual, and Tiana actually told me she read it too. And when scientists build a manual on how to build things, it's not too straightforward. So we're trying to simplify that. And
The reason we think this is simple is that you can literally take it home and copy it. So not too hard to be able to build one yourself. I don't think you need to hire anyone. In fact, do any of you guys know how to glue PVC? There's a few people that do. Hands up if you don't know.
You're going to help Ken in the spring.
What's that?
Going to come help you in the spring?
I was going to offer Jamie out instead of me. Yeah, she's good at shoveling the manure. Okay, who'd like to learn how to glue PVC? This is your chance. Instead of standing there listening to me blab, come on over. I need a few volunteers. Come on, guys. I'm going to voluntold some people pretty quick. Ryan Mercer, do you know how to glue PVC? Haha, you don't, do you? I'm going to admit, I didn't know how to glue PVC and then decided to install my own underground sprinkler system at the farm. I should have had somebody teach me. It's not complicated, but I just tried to figure it out on my own, and it was, a little bit of a mistake. So those of you that are going to give it a try, maybe put some gloves on, because this purple primer really stains your hands. We've probably got space for a couple more people if you want to give it a try. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want you to be afraid of having to build this. And if you have to teach somebody, it's really simple.
I have glued lots.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, who's our volunteers? We only got 2 people? All right, where's Andre? Andre, you know how to do this? Come on over. Come on over. We got gloves, man. I could have got your summer student if you preferred, but you've had so many good questions today. We got different size gloves too if you got big hands. Yeah, these are the big ones. Yeah, I didn't either, and that made me have to fix quite a few. And once you've buried them, it's not as easy to fix. Yeah. So this is so you can do the plumbing, like from that pump and across. One of the first things that you got to do is to get rid of the edge. So this PVC you cut with a skill saw quite nicely, nice and straight. Otherwise you can use these Sawzalls. These are great for cutting PVC. These guys have files and they're cleaning the burrs. There's also little tools that you can use to clean the burrs. I use the grinder. I just like to get that going. I'm done, are you? It's a little faster, right? So the other thing you want to do is make sure that it's nice and clean. So you just clean the edge off. If you have a rag, we don't seem to have any rags. There's 2 components to gluing. So there's the primer. There's a rag. This one's a clear primer right here. The primer is very important. So you guys can pick your pieces that you're going to glue together if you like. It's going like crazy. So the primer does 2 things. It cleans the PVC, which is really important. If you get the clear primer, you're going to take the pipe and just basically rub it around there with this fancy little ball. You'll see it'll get nice and clean. So it doesn't just clean it, it actually softens up the PVC so that's prepping it for the glue. So you're going to prime both the side that you're gluing in there. There's a few options. And then also the piece that you're going to be connecting. So you're going to do a quick prime on the inside there. And I usually don't waste too much time. I usually have somebody sometimes helping me because the glue is always hard to open. So the glue, oh my goodness, I've got clear glue. This is the fancy stuff. Usually I have the purple primer, like the mess that I have on that one beside you, because then I can see what I've done. And then the glue is often gray. So in this case, no, it's still glue. So this is for when you want it to look really good. You go with the clear primer and the clear glue. The only problem is you don't know if you got it on. So you want to put loads of glue on. I don't care if it looks stupid with the glue. I always like to get the edge there too. And then also glue the side that's going in. So this is a little bit timely. If you wait too long to put these together, you can use that one if you want, you'll lose your position. So then you could put the two together, usually give it a twist, and I like to hold it for about 3 seconds or so, and then it holds. And then that's it. Did I screw up?
Yeah.
What did I do? No.
You cut that run the wrong length.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've also learned that when you cut things the wrong length, there are ways to fix it. On big pipes, they actually have parts that will pull out and extend. So there's all these little tricks that you'll learn in going along. So, you know, measure twice when you're doing this for sure. Measuring the depth of things. What? Brian's giving me a funny smile. Do you have some wisdom that you're going to share? Not right now. Bastard. Okay. Did you guys glue it?
It's good.
See, it's not that hard. You know, and just to build a little bit of plumbing along like that, once you've got the hang of it, it's not a big deal at all. Yeah, it will not come apart. Once it's glued, get rid of it. If trying to fix it is not worth your effort. You can sometimes, and one little trick though too is if you goof up, you can take that primer and it will clean off glue. So if it came apart, that primer, if you go at it long enough, it's designed to dissolve the glue. So you can kind of fix little mistakes like that. But otherwise, you're better off getting a new piece and starting over again. And you're just going to keep building all day.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay, so the only other little bit of tricky spot is maybe the bulkheads on the tanks. And those are really easy. They just kind of, you drill the hole and you screw on a bulkhead. And sometimes a little bit of silicone to seal it up. Besides that, the drip tape, and we also have drip tape going out to our new shelter belt that's been planted. There's lilacs and dogwood and all this other stuff. But learning to work with the drip tape usually is pretty easy. So you have these screw-on fittings. Toby told me that a heat gun helps, but I've been working with this on my own farm with the subsurface drip irrigation. So these types of fittings, they're kind of compression fittings. All you have to do is give it a good squish on there to get that fitting and then screw this up. So it's a compression fitting that screws tight, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. These little end pieces, this is high-tech kink technology. So that's just for the end pieces that you see in the biobed there. So the long and the short of it is it's not that hard to build these. We actually had a fun time putting it together in a rush because we were presenting it the next day on a plot hop, so nothing like a little bit of pressure. What's that? Maybe the minister was coming the next day. I don't know. Yeah. How much time do we have?
Up to 8 minutes.
Okay. So I think we're close. I wanted to talk about some of the issues and concerns we had. This is the best tip, by the way, is using these. I can't tell you how often I've been working on these, and then the glue is stuck to me for days. Yeah. So the biggest issues that we've had with this biobed has been these little sump pumps. So in those tubes over there, there's sump pumps down there, and they tend to plug and they're not all that reliable. So the choice of sump pump is going to be critical as to make sure that float works. We also, I think, bought some timers that were a little bit too cheap. So the worst thing with that is we came here once, and for whatever reason, the pump didn't shut off, so we were overflowing our biobed, and that's not really what we built it for. So some of those little trade-offs. The other thing is this one was overflowing because that valve by John, we forgot to open it. And it has nowhere to go, so it just overflowed. So a couple of little tips like that. You have to consider where you're going to do the pad and how are you going to have a bypass for rain. For us, we're just going to put a little miniature lean-to over these two biobeds with the clear cover on it because we do want to have the sunlight in there. The sun is actually a big part of the degradation of the chemical. That surface area is important. So it's not just the bacteria, there's actual photodegradation of chemicals that are taking place. And it also helps for the bioassay. So when the plants are growing, you know that it's actually doing its job. Besides that, it's been not that bad. We're kind of enjoying using it. In fact, we hooked up our 2 sinks here now for when we're mixing our own chemical. so that anything that we do cleaning out even your graduated cylinders and all that will run straight into the sump. So we're really taking care of everything. And like I said, that trailer there is there for you guys to borrow if you like. If you have a county that you'd like to share it with, we can bring that out there. We want to encourage folks to adopt this because I do think it's only a matter of time that it's going to be legislated. So we might as well get ahead of the game. I know that a lot of the folks that are direct marketing now, that's a great part of your, say, environmental farm plan. It's about the brand of your own farm in some senses as well. So we can show the world that we're doing the best that we can in every way possible. There's also funding available to help offset the costs of these biobeds. If you're interested in that information, Jamie and I have both links to the CAP programs where you can get up to 50% of the funding to do this. The only other thing that I didn't talk about is your guys' sprayers are stupid big, right? So when it comes to this part of it, putting a concrete pad is probably not all that cost effective.
A lot of them you can fold.
Yeah, you can have.
You can fold and spray down?
Yeah, so on
Okay.
mine I can go 60 feet instead of 120, right?
Well, that would be nice. One other option is simply drawing a V-ditch and then lining it, right? So I've got a V-ditch on my own farm just for filling my dugout that I lined so it wouldn't flood my yard out. So it really wasn't that hard to get that pretty thick plastic. And I think that could be a pretty simple way. You might need to put a bridge on it to drive over and then you're good. Something like that.
The biggest thing is farming from Nobleford to Carmen here.
Yeah. So Brian's comment was sometimes when the farms are spread out, you tend to clean out 2 or 3 different places. So I was asked that question at another presentation once, and I don't have the perfect answer for you, although what you could do is collect your rinsate. You could have a tank and just flow everything into there. You can't flush your booms that way, but you could probably collect the majority of it and then bring that rinsate back to your own biobed. It's also nice, have you guys ever mixed a tank and then conditions change and you didn't get to spray, then what do you do with it? And you don't want to spray it out because it's not going to work. This might be an option to deal with that type of scenario as well. Are there any questions from the online folks? You sure they're there? They're logged in, guys? Any questions from the crowd? Thanks for enjoying another Biobed talk, Andre. All right, we're just going to have some ice cream and then we'll head off to the last talk of the day.